पतली सी खुशी का शेयर करो कसा
It's a girl.
मीठी सी हंसी का
सर
बांट लो ये
वहाँ
हिस्सा
लड़की हुई है 502 में।
का ये
मिस्टर मनोज मुबारक हो, स्टेम सेल मैच मिल गया, ट्रांसप्लांट की तैयारी करें।
हर बच्चे के जन्म के साथ जन्म लेती है एक उम्मीद, जब वो जुड़ती है लाइफ सेल कम्युनिटी स्टेम सेल बैंकिंग प्रोग्राम से। लाइफ सेल, होप इज लाइफ।
पतली सी खुशी का शेयर करो कसा
It's a girl.
मीठी सी हंसी का
सर
बांट लो ये
वहाँ
हिस्सा
लड़की हुई है 502 में।
का ये
मिस्टर मनोज मुबारक हो, स्टेम सेल मैच मिल गया, ट्रांसप्लांट की तैयारी करें।
हर बच्चे के जन्म के साथ जन्म लेती है एक उम्मीद, जब वो जुड़ती है लाइफ सेल कम्युनिटी स्टेम सेल बैंकिंग प्रोग्राम से। लाइफ सेल, होप इज लाइफ।
Hi, doctor.
Hey, hi, good morning.
Good morning. You can start with your presentation.
Okay, you want me to start with the presentation? Let me, I'm going to share it from my this video. Let me see. इसमें से pencil निकालिए, Apple pencil. Oh, this is not giving me option for sharing. इसमें शेयर कर दें। Okay. Let's see if we can. Are you able to hear us? Who's the person at the other end?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, I can able
Connect
to
with
hear you.
my iPad actually. I'm not able to connect. I'm trying to join in. I'm not able to connect with that.
Actually, you're audible and the slides are also visible.
Okay, so you want me to start with this? Fair enough. I'll just start with that. So, is there a chat room where we get the questions, or I just have to present and?
Yes, there is a chat section where you get messages.
Let me just see the chat section. Okay, I can see Deep, I can see Vinesh, I can see Pooja. Okay. So can you just connect on this and show me? Just connect on this. All right. So let us start with the content that we are talking about. And let me first introduce myself. Hi, I'm Dr. Mukesh, Obstetrician Gynecologist from Lennox Malad, Mumbai. And I've been practicing for over 2 decades. And my association with, the stem cell banking has been there for almost 2 decades, I would say. The reason is because when it was first introduced in Indian market, I was actually one among the first few where we had collected the sample and handed over for doing the validation process, etc. So that's how I have been associated with this process. So I am aware about the evolution of the Indian market when it comes to acceptance of stem cell, as whether it is storage, whether it is utilization, etc. Now, what are we going to do today? We are going to discuss about these issues which are relevant to stem cell. And what are these issues? These issues include the basics, because we want to know what exactly is cord blood banking. We want to understand what stem cells is all about. Are they really of any value? And in these times, is it of any sense to store them? Will we ever need them? And then, of course, what are the indications where it can be used in modern day medicine? And when we say modern day, it is about present day, and there is also a role in future. What are the various options available in Indian scenario? What is the importance of donor stem cells? And last but not the least, the challenges that we face and the innovative solutions towards that. And then we wrap up with the take-home message. This is what we're going to do today. So let's know what cord blood is all about and how is it collected. So the common frequently asked question to me in my clinic is, sir, if we remove the blood from the baby, will not the baby suffer? Or if we give mother's blood, my wife's hemoglobin, or the mother says my hemoglobin is so low, will it not affect me? So how will you collect the blood? So I don't want to donate my blood or my baby's blood. We don't want to do any loss. We would rather keep it to ourselves and not waste it. Now, this is what is a very big myth, because the blood is not collected from baby or from the mother. It is that residual blood which is left behind in the placenta and the cord, which is actually collected and which is actually stored. So the feeling that my baby will lose blood because of this or the mother will lose blood because of this is actually a myth. It is not a fact. So that is one very clear message that I want all of you to know about, right? Then the next important thing that comes on the mind is that if we are going to give it, so there is a standard thought that we need to do a delayed cord clamping. So we want to give as much blood which is there in the placenta to go to the baby. And if we try to store it, then what they'll do is they'll not let the baby have the blood and the baby is lost. No, again, this is a myth, because we normally would do a delayed cord clamping unless there is an indication for not doing it. For example, there's some complication for which we have to take action. Otherwise, we always do a delayed cord clamping. And after doing that, still we have enough blood to store for the baby and the mother, or rather for the stem cell banking, cord blood banking. So this is another very important thing that we need to do. Then another question that people ask is, when we are going to collect it, are you going to prick the baby? Are you going to put in a needle? Are you going to, will it cause pain to the baby? No, it is not, because baby is already disconnected from the cord and already handed over to the pediatrician team. And after doing that, the remaining residual blood which is left behind in the cord and the placenta is actually removed. So these are the myths that we commonly face, and these are the questions that we commonly are asked, and that's the answer to this. So cord blood is basically that amount of blood which is left behind in the umbilical cord and the placenta, which we would otherwise throw it away in the biomedical waste. Instead of that, we are going to save life with that particular cells and that particular very, very precious tissue, which is actually possible to use. Okay, now when it is collected, how will it be processed and what will be done? Hame kya karna hai? What will be needed to be done by us and all those things? So the answer here is this, that actually you don't need to do anything. Once it is collected in the bag, this bag is sent across to their organization and the cord blood banking institutions, and they manage the whole logistics and they take care of it. What about the storage? Will it be proper? Will they take the care of the cold chain? Will it be proper? Will it get exchanged? Will it get? No, don't worry about all those things. These are all standardized processes where everything's are taken into consideration. So it is really very less likely for you to have all those worries, because in this era where people are using left, right, and center, these various different apps for ordering their products, this is high time we have to understand that extreme level of standardization is there, so that your blood is not wasted or lost or confused with someone else's or something else. So don't worry about that. And everything is taken from start to finish, from the table in the labor room to the center. Everything is taken care by the logistics team. So you don't have to worry about that. So stop thinking about that. And that blood is then transferred into those storage bags. And then those bags are accordingly kind of evaluated for whatever next steps that needs to be done. So now it comes to the next issue, that what are these stem cells all about? So let us understand that, when we talk about stem cells, you need to know. Yesterday, I was in one of the schools, and these were fifth standard kids, and they invited me to give a talk to these fifth standard kids. The whole, all the kids from the school of fifth standard got together, and they wanted me to give a talk to the fifth standard and tell them about reproduction. They said that you speak to them and you know how to handle them, and you will be able to answer their questions. They have a lot of queries and curiosity, but we don't know how much to tell and what to tell and not. So one of the things which the kids are, all of them are made aware, is we come from one cell and one zygote. So this zygote concept is taught to as early as 10, 12 years old kid in the school. So that zygote, that one cell, then replicates and multiplies itself and forms so many different types of tissues in our body. Now, if we are going to think about these different types of tissues, you have to realize that whether it is a hematopoietic system, whether it is a skeletal-muscular system, whether it is a neurological system, all these various systems are formed actually from one original cell, which has the information of the chromosomes inside it. Okay, and this chromosome inside it has all the information which is going to translate into the form of proteins and structure, and then so on and so forth. When we are collecting blood in the cord, from the cord, actually a large amount of stem cells are acquired and they are available to us, unlike an adult where it is actually more organized and differentiated forms. But in early stage we get these. Now these stem cells, if you look at the progenitor cells, like for example the hemopoietic progenitor cells, it forms the MPC, the multipotent cells, that is multipotent stem cells. Then it goes into either the, say for example, the lymphoid series where it makes the B cell, T cell, natural killer cell, and thereby the immunity, the immune system is taken care of. Or it goes into the myeloid series where it can form the red blood cells or the platelets or the monocytes and the lymphocytes, that is the WBCs. So it can go there and can form major component of our the blood circulation, so and so on and so forth. This comes from the hemopoietic progenitor cell. So these stem cells are actually, it is possible to program them into forming different types of cell series, which in turn will be utilized for therapy in future. So whether it is to replace the blood and immune system, whether it is to modify the patient's autoimmune response, whether it is to reduce inflammation, whether it is to promote neural connection in the brain, these are the places where these stem cells have been utilized so that their ability to translate into higher form of tissue is exploited by our body and by the science to help us treat some situations and issues which otherwise would have been very difficult. Now, how do we really grade our chances of need for using it? So do we have really a chance to use it? So there was a time when we used to say लाखों में एक जन को काम आएगा बाकी किसी को नहीं आएगा. Then there was a time we used to say हजारों में एक जन को काम आएगा. Now there are some statistics which comes from some organizations where they are trying to do algorithms to see where the utility is going to be there. Now some of the studies have come down to so low, which says that the chance by age of 70 of having a stem cell transplant may be as high as 1 in 435 or 1 in 400, depending on your donor own stem cells, and a combined chance is 1 in 217. Now this is a very ridiculously high figures, which we feel, one of the reason is because stem cells are now being used for so many more indications than what it was originally said to. And there is so many more things that you can actually do with the stem cells now, which was not possible at an earlier age. So it has been proven from almost more than 5-6 decades, and lakhs of transplantations have happened. They normally say transplantation for it rather than transfusion. So it's transplantation, and it has been going. Almost 50,000 every year is happening now, and it is gradually only increasing but not reducing. There are 90 plus blood conditions for which they have been approved for utilization, and they have been started using it and studying about the same. And there are more than 700 plus clinical trials happening, which will come up with the data and information about standardization of the process and the protocols for utilization of these stem cells in the treatment plan. A fast fact: did you know India's first bone marrow transplant was done as early as 1983 in Tata Memorial Hospital? So it is not something which has happened just now. Now this has happened, and this has been happening for decades now. So it is nothing new. It was just that access and availability was very less. Now this brings us to the next issue, that if we need to know about whether we can have access to this particular scientifically advanced approach to therapy, how do we get it? So there is something called as a bone marrow donor registry, where there are these donors who register themselves, and they say that, okay, if you need it, I will be available to you, and you can actually connect with us, and we will be providing you with a sample. So if you look at those checklists, less than 1% actually are available, and there are very, very, very less number of voluntary donors. So I remember in my medical college days, there used to be these people who would say, okay, we need stem cell for this specialized treatment, and my sister or my wife is, or my daughter or my son is needing this. please help us, and they used to send across these mails and letters and all those things. And then there will be some representative would come to the medical colleges and request for donor, because they thought that it is easier for a medical fraternity person to agree to donate, and for that they would say, okay, please be a bone marrow donor. And then somebody would agree, and they will take the sample, and then they try to do the HLA typing and then see if it is matching or not. And then they figure out, oh, it's not matching. So first of all, we don't know whether we can, our bone marrow. First of all, number of people who would voluntarily donate are very less. Add to that, the probability of matching was also low, and add to that the complexity of not having awareness about this. Okay, now even if the donor has got themselves checked and found that okay, it is possible that we can use them, more than half of them would back out because they would be worried that something may go wrong in their body or in their system, and that can really cause problem to them. So that is the reason why it was really not a viable option some time back. But cut to now, in the present day scenario, there are a lot of these cord blood banks which are now available. Let us understand some basic fundamental thing. There are two components. One is family banking, and second is public banking. In public banking, you connect the blood and collect the cord blood and keep storing and keep collecting, and we don't even know the kind of data bank that we have. But again, you need to keep checking for availability, because obviously there is going to be a issue that when you talk about that, how much sample will be able to collect in the public bank. Ideal situation would have been that everything is free and government is doing it, everything, but practically that doesn't happen. Now, family bank means there was personalized banking, and people would store their own family members' cord blood, and they will keep it for themselves, and no one can use it. They can only use it for their own family or friends or their own people, and they don't want to give it to anyone else. So that's another concept. But you need to understand that when we talk about donor instead of self, does it really make sense? Why do we need to have donors? Okay, the reason we need to have donors is because there will be some sorts of diseases which are genetically influenced and some which are not genetically influenced. Say, for example, a trauma, for example, is a different from a genetically transmitted disease. So a disease which is genetically transmitted, now if the same cells are being used from own cord blood cells, it may not be useful. Why? Because those cells will also carry the same genes and the same mutations. Okay, whereas if it is from someone healthy who doesn't have those mutations, and if we are using that matched stem cells, then there is higher chance of treating that medical condition, and that will have a higher probability of trying to tackle that. So this is something which we need to understand, the difference between self versus donor stem cells. So even if you want to keep your own set of stem cells, still there might be some set of diseases where you will not be able to use it for your own self, but you may have to have, because those diseases are connected to the mutation which is genetically transmitted, and that same information and that same issue is going to be in that stem cells, which your own stem cells which have been stored. So that is another big mess, because of which there is a need for donor stem cells. Now let us look at another issue about the present day problem with cord blood banks and public cord blood banks. First of all, there is very low inventory. India has no public bank, and that is the reason why we have very low. And if you look at the global inventory, about 8 lakh samples are spread over 55 major public banks. And if you look at the HLA typing, there is very less likelihood of us getting Indian matched donor. Why? Because obviously we are more concentrated in India as compared to the other countries. And that is the reason why if you try to look at those inventories outside India, you will have less likelihood to find Indian matched donors or Indian donors prima facie. Because the ethnicity is a very important component for HLA typing. So if you look at a Hispanic population versus an African population so you will not, it is less likely to get the same HLA type if you're trying to do a cord blood bank or stem cell transplant. Second issue is about the cost. So first of all, there is a cost to procurement, and once you've procured, there is a cost to transplant, and there'll be additional expenditure for the healthcare and other things. And for each of this set, there might be you land up spending 15-20 lakhs, and all those things. And then ultimately, if you want to procure it from outside India, it is only going to add to the cost, and it is not going to be less. So effectively, the whole treatment plan at every step would cost you 15-20 lakhs or maybe 30 lakhs, and that will really be something which becomes a little non-viable for an average person and only viable for elite few. Now, when we look at these problems, what is the ideal solution? The ideal solution would be something like a community banking, where we are taking care of the cost issues, we are taking care of access to larger inventory of stem cells, which can match to the patient when they need it. And of course, we need to get the benefit of both public as well as private bank, where you have, it is access is because you're able to kind of participate by your contribution. You should get a priority as compared to people who have not participated by contribution. So if you contribute to something, then you have a priority. If you do not contribute and you come from an outsider, obviously there is going to be a handicap as compared to those who are contributing. So you need to realize that if we combine these issues, then it will be an ideal thing. And the most important thing would be that there has to be availability and accessibility besides affordability. Only then can we use this as a service for developing. So there is no doubt that if we go ahead in future, there is going to be a lot of development of this science, and there is going to be a lot of issues that the science and development is going to happen. So when we look at some quick take-home messages, we need to understand that stem cell transplantation is an approved therapy now, and there are the ethics committee has approved many of these indications and many other studies which are now being done. Another thing is that as of now, the most common and accepted way to collect and bank the stem cell has been the umbilical cord bank, which has been allowed globally. Although there are a lot of these centers who are trying to store so many more things besides the umbilical cord, but this has been most standardized and permitted across the world. What's not recommended is something where an elite few are taking care of only few of them, and that also because of the poor number game. They will not be able to use it much because you cannot use the same stem cells if there is a genetically connected issue which needs to be treated. What is recommended, on the other hand, is to encourage public banking and community banking, because then it will get best of both the worlds. The sample collection is safe and simple. All the myths and doubts I have removed at the beginning, the FAQs that you have in your mind and what needs to be taken care of. There are standardization processes which are available, an accreditation method, so that the safety and the efficacy is maintained and they can be used when you need it. And there's increased chance of acceptance because of that reasons, and also because of tremendous number of years of experience now these storage banks are having. They know the whole process, which is right from collection to storage, to be able to sustain it when we actually need it and use it, and then how to use it. All those aspects are now much better than what it was earlier. And of course, last but not the least, because of the exposure and because of the utilization and existing systems where already the banks have provided these samples for transplant, gives the confidence to us in going ahead. Well, these are the few things that are there. If you have more questions and queries, please write it to us at our email address, lennis.india@gmail.com, or you can connect with our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel has got more than 200 plus videos on common issues of women in childcare. Please go to the channel, subscribe it, and if you like it, please share it with your friends. Thank you very much for patient hearing. Over to the team LifeCell for any questions and queries which they have received in chat and they want me to answer. Over to you guys.
Thank you, doctor.
Vinesh, Deep, are you there?
Hi, doctor.
Yeah, hi, Vinesh.
Thank you so much. Hi, pleasure.
I have stopped sharing still, but I don't know why it is still showing that. But I don't know whether.
Sure.
Okay, now that's better. Okay, that's better. Okay.
Right. So, firstly, on behalf of all the attendees, the team, thank you so much for explaining in such an amazing way. I think that is why there are. I don't think so. There is any scope of queries here, because I think you've spoken the language of a common man to understand. Thank you so much, sir. Guys, anyone, in case you have any questions in relation to these services, for the science, we have the expert here. From the company's perspective, if there's any question on the science, on the applications, In case of the service pricing, anything, please feel free to write in the chat box, and we would love to assist you.
All right. Meanwhile, I would just like to add another thing. The biggest fear, Vinesh, people have. So in the meanwhile, they're asking these questions. Let's have a chat and understand from the doctor's
Sure,
perspective and the company's perspective. So for people
sure.
who are, not able to comprehend the questions that they have in the mind immediately and they want to type it, what is important here is to understand that the biggest anxiety that people have is that I'm spending money and probably it will not be of any use to us. So even if we do it, it may not be of any benefit to us, and that is the biggest thought because of which people actually are afraid. So I try to take up all the common FAQs about the fear about the baby being affected or the mother being affected right at the beginning of the presentation. And after doing that, my next thought was that whether it is financially viable or not. Would you like to throw some light on that, Manish?
Sure, absolutely. So just quickly share my screen. Uh, is my screen visible?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
All right. All right. Perfect. So, any expected parent who is interested to bank their baby stem cells. Now, one of the thing is the pricing that you're seeing in front of you. From an emotional perspective, a customer basically just tries to link this to the baby. But what you need to understand is with life cells, community stem cells banking, while you contribute your baby's a single cord blood unit to the pool, in return, automatically 8 or more family members become a part. So when you're looking at the pricing, and I'll just quickly run you through on this, remember that the investment that you're making is not just for the baby, but the baby, siblings, the mother, father, and the maternal and paternal grandparents. So 8 or more family members put together. So the pricing works in a simple format. Uh, right from generating your CRM number, facilitating the collection procedure with the help of a kit box, couriering your sample from your birthing center to a laboratory in Chennai. Once it comes, doing all the standardization procedure that Dr. Mukesh was talking about, testing, processing, and finally, cryopreservation for the first 1 year. Everything put together for 8 or more family members, you're expected to pay 20 to 490 plus sample collection charges, which is different for different hospitals or doctor depending on the city that you are going to deliver. So if you do the math, anyone can clearly understand that to initiate the stem cells banking procedure for 8 members, if we have clearly understood the value of this preventive healthcare solution, it is definitely worth an investment. Then after that, just like how we maintain our cars, bikes, air conditions or laptops, etc., similarly you need to maintain the baby's cord blood stem cells at a particular temperature of minus 196 degrees. So for that maintenance, there are three ways in which you can make the payment depending on how it comforts you. The first is an annual storage plan, wherein just like how we have so many services that we subscribe annually, similarly, all that you need to pay is 4,500 rupees every year for 8 or more family members, which means it all comes down to just around 500 rupees per family member per year. And you know what, you can continue paying this for 100 or more years, the rate or the fee remains the same. The second is we have few customers who want to do this investment till the baby turns a major, which is around 21 years age. Now in case you fall in that umbrella of customers, then you have an option to pay 34,000 along with the initial fees that I said, which roughly comes around to 65,000 plus minus here and there. And then if you do the math, you paid everything for 21 years, you do not have to pay anything. So that's a prepaid plan. Now again, if you look at around 65,000 and divide by 21 years for 8 family members, it comes about to round about to around 300 or 350 rupees per person per year. Now that's not very expensive. And last but not the least, if there are customers who wishes to go for the entire lifetime plan of 75 years, then there is a payment of 51,000 that we collect. Again, 51,000 for 8 family members for 75 years. So you can do the math and you'll understand that it is not expensive the way it used to be. Now, one more thing that I would like to add here is, depending on, because we understand that pregnancy comes with a lot of overhead costs. You need to be having finances to accommodate everything. To facilitate that, we have no cost EMI options, credit card EMI options, and a host of other finance schemes through which our mission, company's mission, is that stem cell banking should be available for every Indian. Only then we will be able to solve this huge problem that our country is facing. And hence, to navigate that, we have a lot of pricing options which our product experts can guide you during a personalized one-to-one conversation. So any questions on the pricing plans anyone has, can put it in the chat box and I would be happy to address that. All right, just to give you a quick understanding on the benefits, there's a host of benefits that you're going to get here, but most importantly, and this will also summarize the amazing presentation that Dr. Mukesh has given to all of us. If I were an expected parent, this is what I would look in terms of gain or loss analysis, whether I want to go for it, or if I do not wish to go for it, what is the possible challenges that my family would face. Number one, on your left hand side, today we do not have an inventory of donor cord blood stem cells, and as sir rightly said, even for bone marrow stem cells, there is hardly anything that people are getting. But when you bank it with community banking of LifeCell, you get access to 60,000 plus high quality, consented, and ready to use cord blood stem cells in India or abroad. The second benefit is, with this, as per the Indian Council of Medical Research's data, you have a 97% and more chances, close to 100% chances, that you will find that medicine that you're looking at. Stem cells is nothing but a medicine to treat your loved one. Third important point is, you will get these stem cells n number of times. There is no capping, unlimited samples for every family member, absolutely free of cost. Now, we all have medical insurances, but in India, even today, medical insurances do not really cover, to the best of my knowledge, these stem cell transplants. And hence, to circumvent that issue, for the first 21 years, for the baby, siblings, and the parents, the entire cost of the stem cell transplant. And here is the benefit. You use a cord blood, bone marrow, or peripheral blood, any approved treatment in India or abroad, up to 20 lakh rupees, the entire cost would be taken care by the company. And last but not the least, the cord blood samples that will be given to you would be run through a battery of tests to check if there is any genetic issue. If you recollect, few minutes back, sir was explaining about the root cause of the problem in the stem cells itself. So we want to give the physician and the family that assurance that the cord blood that we are trying to provide you is free of these genetic mutations, etc., giving you more confidence that the transplant will be successful. So I hope with this, our audience has more clarity and information. Dr. Mukesh, there is a question here for us from Debanita. Is it possible to preserve from everywhere in India? I'm from Siliguri. Oh, absolutely. Since it is a service issue, I'll take up the lead here. We have our service centers in Siliguri. We will soon reach out to you and help you collect and preserve these cells with us. So yes, it is possible.
Sorry, Vinesh. While you were explaining, there was network glitch. Can you please explain it again? So that
The last part?
yeah.
Sure. So
Actually, it was very clear and lucid. I mean, probably it must be at the end of one of the persons only.
One
But
of the persons.
yeah. I could hear it it was a very nice and lucid explanation about all the pros and cons and the cost efficacy and also how you're overcoming the challenge. Anyway, any salient features you want to just highlight for her, probably you can do that.
Correct. So the service is available at Siliguri, but the major point that I was trying to drive here is because uh, when this, and you've been associated with these central banks for the more than 2 decades now. Uh, it started as a luxury product for the elite ones, for the celebrities, for the uh, Bollywood stars, for the business tycoons, and I think somewhere that's got etched so much, and it's been passed from families and friends that ye to unke liye hai. That's where a little gap has come up, and hence while I was explaining the pricing, uh, my dear uh, uh, participants and people who are listening to us, stem cell banking now is available in the community banking model, where it's not just one, it's not just two, but it's more than 8 family members who can benefit by contribution of only one cord blood stem cell. And that's why when you do the math, when it comes to the pricing, consider 8 members getting covered, just like how you would have a medical insurance policy between the husband, the wife, and the kids. It's beyond that.
Advantage of group policy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other question?
Okay, I'm going to ask you one question, Vinay. One of my patients over the decades have been using these services, and earlier, there was only private bank. I still remember the amount of money they used to land up spending, somewhere around 1.5 to 2 lakhs, per sample storage, etc. And then ultimately, many of them had actually enrolled for private banking. Okay. So, so many of them are now also on the thought, should we continue the private banking or should we be part of the community banking? And is there a solution for it? Do we have an option to switch over now? And do we really need to switch over? And all those kind of questions. So, do you have an answer for that?
Yes, absolutely. So the good news, Dr. Mukesh, is that the investment that they had made remains the same. The cord blood remains the same. Everything remains the same. It's just the utility or the value proposition that community banking gives amplifies the investment many folds. And the answer to your question is absolutely yes. Any existing customer of LifeCell has an option to switch over or move from private to community banking model. We in a lot of cases, if in case there is any family member that they are expecting and they refer to us, we give them a free upgrade, or else the charges are around 5 to 10,000 rupees, and in that limited amount of upgrade fee, they can get all their agreement. And you know what the best thing is? Let's say some of your patients would have enrolled in the year 2007-8. It's been more than a decade. Today, when they upgrade, they would get the agreement which is available today. I remember when I joined this organization a decade back, the insurance was just for 5 lakh, and that too only for the baby. Today it is 20 lakh rupees for the baby sibling parents, and that too for every stem cell transplantation. So that's why I said the option is available and they can upgrade and they will get so many more benefits.
Quite a few of my patients have chosen to upgrade and they were asking me. So I thought it'll be very useful for the rest of the people to also know.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that important question.
Yeah. So I think there are a couple of more questions. Monica has asked a question about whether it's the same cost to preserve the placenta or tissue. Well, there is a little bit. I think let the company handle this question. But from my perspective, there are some companies who are offering to store the placenta. Obviously, globally, the cord blood has been the only gold standard to be permitted to store and all those things. But to each their own. If everybody wants to store something and want to spend money for it and they want to do it, so you have an option available. But the question is about utilization. I think there I would like you to take over, Vinesh.
Sure. So, Monica ji, in India, stem cell banking is regulated under the Drug Controller Journal of India. It is a licensed service. So the license that you get as a stem cell bank today, be it LifeCell or be it any other banking facility, is only for collection, processing, testing, storage, and retrieval of cord blood stem cells. And hence, in our discussion, as you saw, we spoke about only cord blood stem cells, and Sir also spoke only cord blood stem cells. While yes, there are organizations who try to preserve everything from an amniotic sac to fat cells, adipose cells, etc., etc. To be very honest, there is question marks. There are controversies related to this because there is no license from the government. Yes, abroad there are applications, etc., but in India, that's the status quo today, and we need to align to that. Dr. Mukesh, there is a question, I think, which we would love to hear it from you.
Yeah.
Amta Rakesh is saying, why do we need blood stem cells from a donor?
Okay. So, Rakesh Amda, we discussed that in the discussion which we had, and again, I'm going to tell you that see, basically, what happens is that there are two sets of diseases or problems because of which you would want to take stem cell, right, treatment. So, one of those may be affected because of the abnormal mutation in the genomic structure or the chromosomes of the patient, and because of which a particular issue has happened in that patient. In those case scenario, if we are using that patient or that child, say for example there is a child A, and this child A has some medical issue, and then when we dig into that medical issue, we find out that that is because there is some abnormal mutation on some particular chromosome or some particular location in the genomic structure, because of which that problem is happening with that child, and that is leading to some issues, and that is leading to some abnormal, a growth pattern in their hematopoietic cells or whatever it may be. Now, in those case scenario, this is a hypothetical condition I'm creating. In those case scenario, for example, what happens is that if there is a stem cell, cord blood cell stored of that child A, it will also carry the same genetic material. So it may not be of use for you to actually use the same material to treat a disease which is caused because of that genetic origin. This is the place where we need to have a donor cell which will be having the same HLA typing but a more cleaner gene structure without that mutation, which will help them to do better. And that is the whole reason why the donor bank, the blood stem cells coming from a donor is actually useful to those issues. Now, there will be, again, and if anything related to non-genetic origin, of course, the same person's stem cells may be of use. But the probability of a person to actually use own stem cell versus a probability of a person to be able to resolve his issue via a donor is higher. So that is the reason why the donor stem cell option is a very great option, and hence people moved on from private banking to community or public banking. Right now, this is where this statement which comes from Vinesh is very interesting. That suppose if we want to take the transplant from the bank, so what if that donor is also having that same genetic problem? And then it'll be no use because I'm giving something which is going to go to the patient, and then now the donor is also having the same problem, and I don't even know because you've not checked for that donor. So how will I come to know about that when you check? Now this is where Vinesh is talking about, the safe transplantation program, where so I think this can be seen on the slide here, that a free of cost genetic testing is offered, which can be used to check for that particular mutation. So somebody was asking whether the testing includes genomoscope or not. Now, there are different brand names for doing these various different tests which are done, and every company has their own name for that particular set of tests. But it boils down to studying the exome sequencing and the mutation studies, which in turn tells us whether that particular mutant gene is there or not. And sometimes it is much more cheaper than doing the whole genomoscope. But instead of that, we can just do a Sanger sequencing of that particular mutation and see whether that abnormality is there. And there are so many pros and cons to that. Well, a little more highlight on companies' stand on that from scientific perspective. Rakesh, I hope I have made you understand in a very simple, lucid way. Over to you, Vinesh.
Perfect. And just a moment of pride for all the Indians who are listening to this. Generally, the notion is that the best comes from the West. But with all humility, I would love to share this with all of you all that LifeCell is the first, and to the best of our knowledge, even today, the only stem cell bank across the world to offer this safe transplantation program, which is beyond the regular standardized quantity, quality, and the maternal blood testing. Here we are going to screen for more than 1,000 inherited disorders and give it absolutely free of cost before retrieval. But the explanation that Dr. Mukesh has given is absolutely simple and to the point, and I'm sure Rakesh Amda would have got the answer that they were looking for. There's one more question, Dr. Mukesh, from Suraj. Would you like to address that?
A single collection can be used how many times? So actually, it's not about using about the same. So let me put it this way. It's about you putting your money in the bank and thinking that only that money, that amount that I put in is only available to me. The best part about banking is that what money you invest now can multiply into benefits into multifold by the time you actually need it in your retirement, right? Similarly, in corporate banking, it is not about that single unit which has been used or that single unit which has been stored, but by using and storing that single unit, you're contributing in the larger canvas of a system of community banking, and you're becoming a member of that elite group. I am using the word elite not as in financially elite, but elite as an ability of accessibility, because now you have an access to a larger group, and that is the key factor here. So it is not about a single collection of a single person, but once you do it, then you have an access to the whole large amount of scientific not just material but also information, data, support system, knowledge bank. Because these, the best part about the Indian stem cell banking companies are that they're not just storing it like a locker room that, okay, you've given it, I've stored it, when you need it you take it, get lost. No, it's not like that. But there's a lot of hand holding on a lot of different aspects about support before, during, and after, and even at the time of therapy, and even at the time of scientific research, and the access to the information because of their expert involvement in the field. I have personally experienced these interactions with their medical team and their technical team, and I found it that they are also having a huge resourceful back-end team with knowledge, and all that thing is accessible to us because of being part. So in one line, a single collection is not about how many time it can be used, but about how large the utility can be just by doing that. Now, having an answer to be very specific, I think Vinesh mentioned that there is permission for 8 different family members. Can you elaborate on that? And also, if suppose somebody needs it again or requires more than one sample for the treatment, then also company has this policy. Let us, every company has a policy. Let us hear it from the lifestyle team. What is their policy?
So just to substantiate what Dr. Mukesh sir was talking about, here's a practical example. Now, what you see in front of you is a celebration of India's first double cord blood transplant. Double cord blood, as the name suggests, you've used a transplant where you use not one, but 2 cord blood stem cells. Just for a background, she was the patient, little 10-year-old Batul from Ahmednagar. And these 2 small little kids, Advik from Delhi and Divsha from Hyderabad. Now that's the emotional quotient of this entire concept of community banking. 3 little kids, 3 families, absolutely unrelated from 3 different corners of this country, come together without knowing and saved the life of Batul. When Batul was born, her parents were not aware about stem cells banking, so did not preserve her own cord blood. Now, at the age of around 4 or 5, Batul was diagnosed with a life-threatening blood medical condition called aplastic anemia. Little did they know that at that time, Batul's parents were expecting a second child, and little did they know that this could be a lifesaver for their first baby. Now, Batul's sister's cord blood was preserved under the community banking program with LifeCell. As I said, this is a practical proof that because of her sister's cord blood, Batul was able to get access to the community pool. And as Sir was explaining, it is not about a single or a double. It all depends on the weight, the nature of the disease, the stage of the blood cancer or any other blood disorder. And that's where the physician describes how much cells he requires. In a nutshell, in Batul's case, the doctor, Dr. Pritesh Junagade from Nashik, Maharashtra, had prescribed cells which could be fulfilled by 2 cord blood units. And that's where the donors, one was Advik and second was Divsha, both their cord blood samples had to be mixed together and then infused or transplanted in Batul's body. And it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years, and we are very, very happy to declare that she is absolutely disease-free, transfusion independent, and leading a very happy and healthy life, just like any other baby. So I hope with this practical example, I've answered that question on the utility, how 8 members can practically benefit out of this, and Batul's family didn't have to pay anything to procure these stem cells, which otherwise would have cost nothing less than 60 or maybe 70 lakhs to just get these stem cells from a public bank abroad, if they were to find a match.
So, Vinesh, I'm going to make a little more, kind of a simpler way of asking this question. That suppose if one child is needing it once, and suppose they require a repeat dose, or if there's another family member who also needs it. So, in that case, if suppose they've already used up this benefit once, like Batul has already, so if they need it again, then will they be allowed, or will they have some charge to be paid, and how can they do that?
The answer is simple: unlimited samples, absolutely free of cost for every family member during your contractual period.
So that makes it very lucid and clear. So this is something which people always have this in the mind. ये बोलते तो हैं लेकिन पता नहीं करेंगे कि नहीं करेंगे.
Correct.
So now that is another thing which I always say, that there is always something called as forward insurancing. So how can they afford to pay so much money? How can they afford to do this? So that is another question which people ask me, and that it is not practically feasible. अगर सब जन ने मांग लिया तो सब जन ने ले लिया तो उनके पास कहाँ से आएगा? So there is something which is there is for natural calamity and natural things, there is practically no way to address that. So it's like the COVID came in and a black swan event came in, and you cannot catch hold of your for example, your bankers or your your investment consultants, that आपने तो बोला था पैसा multiply हुए पैसे तो कैसे गए? You can't argue on that on natural calamity. But having said that, a smart team is a team who knows even in those calamities how to handle the situation and help them. And that's what is all about, because the kind of robust systems that we have in our country right now, and the amount of number of samples that are there in these banks, we will be able to hopefully have more and more people aware about it, and more people there, and it may gradually grow. Let's hope that, right?
So Suraj has one more question, and I'll quickly, because it is purely a factual question. Suraj, typically at LifeCell, we've analyzed thousands and thousands of samples. An average Indian baby we get around 80 to 100 ml of cord blood, which post-processing we store around 25 ml. And at least at LifeCell, where we use the world's best technology called Prepacide, we get somewhere around 650 to 750 million total nucleated cell count, or the the TNCCs that we say technically. And the second half of your question has been elaborately discussed already, and I'm sure you would have understood. Sir has already explained that. Dr. Mukesh, since you represent the medical community here, spending 1 decade here, I want to ask a very, 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 very important question, which I think a medical professional will answer better, and compared to a marketing professional for a company. We understand that your inclination and awareness about the utility of stem cells, the application of stem cells, is tremendous, and it was visible in the last 1 hour. The question here is, a lot of people ask that if this was so good, number one, if this was so good, why did my gynecologist or obstetrician with whom I'm spending 9 months did not really made me aware? And part two of the same question is, if this is useful, why is my doctor just giving me a very neutral answer that these are the leaflets, these are the companies, just go and speak to them and you take a call, and not helping me to make a decision here? I know the answer because we've been on the field, but मुझे आपसे ये समझना है, and I want the audience to understand from the gynacs or obstetrician's end, what would be your answer to questions to such questions?
So let me give you a doctor's perspective. So my background being, I have been in OBGY for last more than a decade, and I have also been the president of the largest medical association in Mumbai with 16,000 consultants, and I'm presently the trustee of a gynec association also in Mumbai, Association of Fellow Gynecologists. What I'm trying to tell you here is this, that every human being has a human component. And the human component is besides the high IQ that they have. So one component is IQ, that they are very knowledgeable and very expert in the subject that they are. But the human component is that they do not want to push you into doing something which you're not very sure about, whether it will be of use to you or not, for the worry of you branding them as profiteering out of it. So that phobia of being unfortunately branded as, profiteering out of the whole process is one reason why they take a backseat. Number one. Number two is this, that see, there is a bias of action. There is actually always a bias of action. Suppose there are two choices. One choice that don't do anything versus a choice that, okay, if you do that, there is something gain. And that these two choices are thrown across to an average population. Most often than not, the majority, the larger chunk of people would say, "Nahi, jaan do, jo chal raha hai, chalne do, I don't want to do anything different." So you don't want to change. Nobody likes change. Okay. But in the era of evolution, unless there is incremental change by virtue of support of science, technology, and data, okay, if you do not change, you will perish. Now there is a problem with a lot of these people because of the because of their personal biases, B, because of lack of awareness, C, because of lack of understanding of the whole science, D, because it is not a perfect medicine, is not a perfect science and not an absolute science. Even after so many years, still people doubt, okay, I am having an ischemic heart disease, do I need to put a stent or not? Or probably the doctor is just asking me to put the stent, should I put or not? That question is still there. Even for obstetricians, whenever a doctor says that you will require a C-section, there is a question mark. Okay, do I really need a C-section, or doctor is just asking? That question is still there. Whenever there are two options, there is always going to be a doubt in the mind, and that bias keeps the doctor on the back foot. The doctor is feeling that, okay, if I tell something which is which is so costly, then the patient will feel that the doctor is expensive. Or if I say something that you need to do something which is so cost intensive, that means there is some profiteering behind it. That's why they are trying to push it. Now all these psychological biases play in the mind when the doctor is speaking to the patient, and then they look at their priority, and that is called as a recent bias. What is the recent bias? You only think of abhi kya zaruri hai, अभी इसको बच्चे को पैदा करना है, चलो उस पे फोकस करते हैं, बाकी आगे फ्यूचर में जो होगा देखा जाएगा. We will cross the bridge when the river comes. But then I will also tell you another background of mine. So I have done my strategy management from IIM Calcutta. So my mindset works like a strategy person. I was also a chess player, and I used to represent my college for intercollegiate chess tournament, university level. So I would not look at one or two moves. I would look at what is the end game at the opening game. That if I do this opening, this will what will happen in the middle game. This is what happen in the end game, and that's the way we think. Okay, so I'm wired that way, and hence for me it comes very easily that whatever may be of great use to the patient, not just today, but even at the later stage of life, we need to plan it now. Okay, so if you are smart enough to plan your retirement solution, to plan financial freedom, to plan your insurance for your family, to plan your, plan for a house and trip and vacation, everything right now, for even after 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, how can you be not smart enough to plan a backup system for your family, for a scientific breakthrough technology of stem cell therapy, which has been talking, any science fiction movie you pick up, they're talking about stem cell treatment or stem cell research. So everybody knows that this is the future. It's as true as the emergence of machine learning and deep learning and artificial intelligence in our day-to-day life. Okay, now we are carrying a phone in our hand, which is so much amount of technology and data, which we never dreamt of a few years back. But we have to start accepting this and realizing that not everybody is trained enough. Unless you ask these questions to your doctor, that why not? Okay, they will not be in a comfortable position of telling you it is so important. Last but not the least is that we doctors are so focused on taking care of your other issues that sometimes we do not, many of the doctors may not have the time, efforts, inclination, or intent to invest. And because of individuals' bias, you cannot get into, your decision making. So to summarize in one line, I always say that if we do not change with the changing times, we perish. If we change with the changing times, we survive. But if we bring about the change, we are leaders and we always are ahead of the herd and we do better. So we need to start thinking a little forward and start thinking what is best for our family and take decisions.
I think there was no better way of me calibrating to my thoughts, and I'm sure whoever has heard the last 5 minutes, I think it comes from a very very reliable person, and I think I don't have anything else to say. I think it summarizes that when it comes to anything which is a preventive healthcare solution, right from your vaccinations to your medical insurances to your term plans or anything in your life, as Dr. Mukesh sir rightly mentioned, it's all about the mindset, your strategic mindset, your intent, and the human quotient that sir rightly spoke. So I think if anyone out of people who are listening to us right now, it's at the end of the day, it's a personal choice. uh, it's your understand the emotional connect that one has over a period of 9 months with your obstetrician. However, when it comes to stem cell transplants, to further substantiate what sir was saying, the end user is a hemato-oncologist or a hematologist who or a bone marrow transplant physician. And LifeCell has initiated a new uh, uh, has launched a new initiative where we are now taking these videos. These are all YouTube videos of the faces that you're seeing. These are the best faces when it comes to stem cell transplants today. A mix of youth, mix of experience. These are all doctors, as you are seeing on the screen, who've been doing stem cell transplants for decades together. Just like how sir was saying that in case you want to go and speak about a cardiac issue, you'll go and speak to a cardiologist and not to a dentist, correct? Doctor to sab hai, lekin every doctor is a specialist. So I think if you want to speak about whether stem cell therapy is good or not, and you're not getting a good answer, because not everyone is going to be like Dr. Mukesh Gupta here, if you still are interested and inclined, go and speak to the end user who's a hemato-oncologist, and our team will guide you. These YouTube videos are available on our LifeCell channel. But I think that was the best way to sum up this entire webinar that we've organized. Since I don't see any more questions, there's an end note. Dr. Mukesh Gupta, it's always fascinating. We know you for decades now, but I don't know how you bring this energy. And every time that I speak or I listen to you, there's always something new. And thank you so much for taking out time on this weekend to spread this education to the audience right now. And we're also going to put up this entire webinar on our YouTube channel so that this goes and spreads to so many more who couldn't attend today's session. And thank you so much for this wonderful session, Doctor.
Thank you so much for those kind words. And I hope this will be of some benefit for people who want to crave for more knowledge and understanding of what science has in store for them. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the audience for taking out time on this weekend. Have a good weekend, safe weekend. And thank you so much. Namaste. Thank you.
पतली सी खुशी का शेयर करो कसा
It's a girl.
मीठी सी हंसी का
सर
बांट लो ये
वहाँ
हिस्सा
वहाँ लड़की हुई है 502 में
मिस्टर मनोज, मुबारक हो। स्टेम सेल मैच मिल गया, ट्रांसप्लांट की तैयारी करें।
हर बच्चे के जन्म के साथ जन्म लेती है एक उम्मीद, जब वो जुड़ती है लाइफ सेल कम्युनिटी स्टेम सेल बैंकिंग प्रोग्राम से। लाइफ सेल, होप इज लाइफ।